All right, welcome everyone. We are happy to have Mark Lucas from RVillage with us today. But before we throw it over to him, we are going to talk a little bit about our sponsor. So, Susan, you want to roll the video? There we go. All right, we are so grateful for Levanter Products to be our February Coffee Lunch and Learn sponsors. They're the ones who have made this possible for us this month. So Levanter Products, they warehouse and distribute a wide variety of products to the general industry and to the OEM manufacturers. They've got a number of products available. You can see them on your screen here: trim, foam, and tapes, hardware, lots of things that you all can need for your businesses. And we're really happy to have Lisa Brinesmith is the person at Levanter who reached out and did the sponsorship. And here's some really great quotes from her on why it makes so much sense for Levanter to be a supporter of the RV Women's Alliance. Her and her team want to support their communities, friends, family, and the livelihood that have given them so much. I really like this quote from her. For me, I truly like to inspire people, to defy stereotypes, and remind others there is nothing you cannot do. When I entered the industry, women were rare, even in supporting roles, and now that has all changed. I believe RVWA is accelerating that process. And, supporting RVWA is a natural fit for Levanter. So we thank them so much for their support, and we're going to come back to them a little bit later in the presentation. But for now, we are going to go over to Mark Lucas from RVillage, who is going to talk to us today about building your brand using social media. So Mark, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Sure. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for having me today to talk about this. It's funny, RVWA, I first heard about the organization a while back, and then I heard that the Drab to Fab was a zinger, a Crossroads zinger. And for those of you that don't know, I was president of Crossroads from 2001 or 2 up until 2010. So unfortunately, I'm responsible for the drab part of the Drab to Fab. And I don't know if that's a badge of honor or if that's an insult, but either way, I'm responsible for the drab part. So I'm really looking forward to you guys bringing it up for the Fab part. And what I saw so far looks excellent. So kudos to you guys for doing that. So today, what I want to talk about is building your brand on social media. So over the past probably 5 years, the RV industry has been impacted heavily by social media. And not even specific sites like RVillage, but just Facebook, other sites in general. Things have transitioned from what manufacturers and suppliers always relied on, which was marketing to the dealer, and then the dealer would market to the retail customer. And there was this huge gap between the retail customer getting information from the manufacturer. And it was, we didn't have budgets that were, the size of big national companies. We just chose not to invest that kind of money into national advertising. So oftentimes we would go out one-on-one and train the salespeople at a dealership or drop off printed materials and just hope that it got into the hands of the retail customer. We'd also visit shows around the country, whether they were, beginning of the year shows. January, February, March was heavy show season, and speak to customers one-on-one. And although this was as late as 2017, 2018, it was really an archaic way of doing things with the size of our industry to really be trying to reach people one-on-one and what really gets transferred. So Facebook, was huge. Groups were starting on Facebook. Owners groups were starting on Facebook. Owners groups were starting other places. Chat rooms, message boards, those had gained a lot of speed, and there's several of those out there. And really, that's where a lot of manufacturers had started to go. And then COVID, as we all know, just really changed things, where we weren't able to travel to shows, weren't able to do the training. So that's really heightened the focus on social media and being online with your brand. And I just wanted to talk today about a couple different ways. And I apologize if it skews a little bit towards RVillage, but that's the mode I've been in and that's where I work. But I'm going to try to make it about social media in general. So a couple of things that is really, really good to talk about is social media. You get out of it what you put into it, and it's so true with many different things. On Facebook, for instance, if you have someone in your company who is a marketing person and they're posting, once a week, once a month, that's really the frequency of responses that you're going to get. If you have somebody who is having a regular dialogue, a regular interaction with the people on the site, they're going to be posting, they're going to be commenting regularly. And we see that over and over. If you look at, Keystone RV, as large as Keystone RV is, their owners group is a handful of thousands of people on Facebook. If you look at Jayco, another Thor company, they have over 60,000 people in their group. And that's credit to their team for just the engagement that they do with their customers. So it's not always about the size of your company. It's not always about the number of people involved. It's about what kind of posts you're doing and how engaging it is. The other thing is, this is really the only opportunity we've had in the past few years to engage directly with the customer. So whether you're from a supplier, whether it's a Dometic, whether it's an Airxcel, Levantia Products, one of those, customers many times didn't even know those companies existed. They had a brand, they had a product, but they really didn't know those companies were out there. So now it's really a way to do that one-on-one. So I'm going to share my screen here if possible. Let me see if I can do that here. And there we go. And let me bring this down a little bit. So this is RVillage, which, as I said before, this is the company I'm with. Let me go back to the original website. We're launching a brand new website to our gold members, which is still in testing. So I'll go back to the original site just to make sure everything's working as it should. So you'll recognize this similar to a Facebook. It has all the same sorts of things. It has a notification bell. It has a area with emails, and it has profiles for individuals and for businesses. So if I am in the RV industry, or if I'm just a casual user of RVs, this is applicable to both sides. So let's look at it first as if I'm a user. If I'm a user and I say I'm in my RV and I'm going to take a trip and I want to know what's out there. So I'm in Bristol, Indiana. This is my home base here, but you know what? I am going to travel to, I don't know, let's say Tampa, Florida. So when I go to Tampa, Florida, I want to find, let me see if it's loading up here. I don't know why it's not loading up for me. But if I want to go to Tampa, Florida, and, well, let me do it this way. I'll go from Elkhart to Tampa, Florida. So if I'm in my RV, and I'm, again, just a casual user, and I'm going to go along this route from Elkhart, Indiana down to Tampa. Along that way, I find that, I have an issue with my RV. I want to find an RV service center. I can do that here. If instead of an RV service center, I want to find a business, I can do that. All of these green dots here are businesses. How do I know which one to use? Which one's a good business? Which one's applicable to what I'm doing? This is where really the power of social media comes in. It's very easy to find an ad. It's very easy to contact a business, but more and more people are trusting peer-to-peer interaction. They're not relying on what's written in a magazine. They're not relying on an ad. It is truly peer-to-peer. When you scroll through a Facebook, when you scroll through anywhere else, where's a great place to go camping? Where's a great place to buy whatever? Where's a great place to get my car fixed? Where's a great place to do? It is absolutely peer-to-peer interaction. So the power of social media is you can click on almost any of these businesses and it pulls up the listing. Okay, great. It's a service center. It's W.W. Williams. I don't know anything about them. However, if W.W. Williams has a page on social media, if W.W. Williams is involved in the conversation, a couple of things happen. This listing becomes vibrant. And down here in the home feed, which is any social media, again, I'm showing you RVillage right now because it's where I live and breathe right now. But this is the same in Facebook. This is the same in any of the other areas. People start to ask and talk about what's going on. How do you plan cross-country trips? These are all users of the site today talking about what they're doing. If you're looking through here, they're talking about Walmart, Cabela's, they're mentioning companies in here. And what we're talking about is being part of this conversation. So again, let's go up top here and let's look in the marketplace. So we're going to browse businesses. And you can see that KZ Recreational Vehicles, we set them up yesterday. KZ is interested in reaching out and becoming more engaged with their customers. If we go to KZ's site, again, we set this up yesterday. It has a picture, it has a description, it has the links to their other social media. If you are on social media and you're looking for an RV, you want this discussion to happen out in the main feed. So if I go back to the home area, I'm going to come along a discussion of KZRV by accident. I'm going to come along a discussion of whatever manufacturer by accident. And I'm going to get to see people talking about the good and the bad. Very rarely do I click on an ad on the side. We all have blindness when we're on social media, when we're on the internet. These ads over here, these are great. They do get clicks, but if I'm looking for real information, I'm relying peer-to-peer. So I go to XC Traveler. I can find out all about XC Traveler, and I can find out the kind of things that they're talking about. Okay, this is data. If I go to the groups, let's look at Grand Design RV. Grand Design, Emily Rose works over at Grand Design. Emily Rose is the one that heads up their social media. Here's the Grand Design RV community. Now, Grand Design has done a very smart thing here. Grand Design has not limited their group only to Grand Design owners, and that's intentional. On social media, if you're already preaching to the converted, what message are you really getting out there? So Grand Design has made their group public. Whether you own a Grand Design or not, you're part of this group. So Quaresma here, shout out to Grand Design. We're camped in my father's driveway, helping him out. Schmidt House is talking about their 340 RDS. If you look down here, Bob and Kate picked up one in January. What's going on here is this conversation might be happening in the group, but more importantly, this exact conversation is happening out on the home feed. So the old thought by manufacturers were, we have 40,000 people that are part of our email list. We have 40,000 people that are our customers, and we're going to take and we're going to hold them in tight like this. You know, we're only going to communicate with them. We don't want anybody else to talk to them. We don't want anybody else to send them an email. That's an old way of thinking. And as Curtis, the founder of RVillage, used to say, you know, they're coming anyway to social media. These people that you think are yours and you have in this little cage, they're going to end up on social media anyway. So why not dominate the discussion? So if there's Chevrolet and Ford and Dodge, and they all have their own customers, if Ford says, we're not going to let any of our customers out to anybody else, but Dodge and Chevrolet have their customers all over social media, the conversation becomes, my Chevrolet is great. My Dodge is great. You should see my new Chevy truck. Here's a picture of what I did in my Dodge. Here's a picture of my Jeep doing whatever. Ford owners have ended up on social media, and all they're seeing is conversations about Chevrolet. All they're seeing is conversations about Dodges. Ford is not controlling the conversation. They're not learning anything from the conversation. Okay, so what Grand Design did is Grand Design took the approach of, we're going to invite all of our owners onto social media, both here and on Facebook, and they pepper in their own conversations. So you'll see that throughout here, Grand Design will stop in and ask a question of the group or start to respond to people in the group. Every time they do that, those end up on the main feed. So people that are not Grand Design owners start to see what Grand Design's doing. They start to see what Grand Design is offering in their products. They start to see people enjoying their Grand Design. People are attracted to that positivity. People are attracted to that lifestyle. You're not part of the conversation. The conversation's going to happen anyway. That's a tough thing to get your head around. When it used to be exclusionary, where you would hold on to your customers and you're only going to pitch to them and you're only going to invite them and you only want them in your group. The thing to learn is the conversation is happening. Whether we want it to or not, it's happening. Whether we want to be mentioned or not, it's happening. So the best thing to do is get ahead of it, be part of the conversation, and make it a conversation people want to be in. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody at this point, where we want to be the place people want to end up. And I'm talking about your company, your brand, okay? something that we started a while back is product testing on RVillage. So in order to reach customers, companies, Levantia Products, I know is a sponsor for today's event. There's other suppliers in the industry. Sure, they can go and they can give their product to an OEM puts it in the product, that product goes to a dealer, the customer ends up using the product. There really isn't a pipeline back for information in a couple of ways. Not only do they not get those sound bites or the reviews or whatever they're looking for, but they also don't get feedback directly from the customer as, is this the right, did we build what you want? Did we provide what you wanted? Is it working the way you wanted it to work? And if you're not on the leading edge of product development, oftentimes you're going to fall behind. So when it comes to building a brand or introducing new products, one of the best ways is directly to the community, directly to the social media community. So Eric Sell is one of our sponsors. They came out with on RVillage, they came out with a brand new roof sealant product. They gave us a handful of tubes. We selected some gold members of the RVillage community, gave them that product. Soft Start, it's an electronic device that's installed so you can run 2 air conditioners off of a 30 amp service. They provided a few of those. We gave those to our users. Those users went out, and in one case, they had some problems understanding the directions and how to use the product. In the other, it went flawlessly. And you would think that on the flawless one, boy, that's what we want. We would love to give our product to the customer, and it's flawless. Actually, the company that had problems with their customers responded to us and said, this is fantastic. We'd like people to test all of our products, because we now realize that as an insider, as someone within the brand and within the company, we thought we had it nailed. We thought, boy, these are easy to understand, and this is what you do. Customers said, we don't understand what the word membrane means. So you can probably give away exactly what that is, but they're saying, we don't understand membrane. You're right. You need to talk about the material, the roof material. They were like, membrane, is there something under the roof material? Is there something on top? Is there something I need to clean off? So it was small things like that that was the feedback. Additionally, although they had provided the customer service number, the person was mid-repair doing what they were doing and could not get someone on the phone to answer that question, and the product is drying while they're doing this. The reverse of that is the other company, they provided the product. One person installed it flawlessly. It went exactly as expected. The other person hit a stumbling block, picked up the phone, and got someone on the phone within about 15 seconds. Now, again, it's a smaller company and probably a lower volume of calls, but somebody got on the call right away, answered the question, and they had glowing reviews. And not only were these reviews listed on their page in specific areas, but they were listed out in the home feed. So the problem became a way to brag, became a conversation. Oh, I love it when you can get somebody on the phone. Boy, that's great that you were able to do that. I'm having the same issue. Does it really work? Peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer. You can call the company and they're going to say, mine's the greatest in the world. Is it? But when it's peer-to-peer, when it's Joe and Phyllis who are in Texas doing this work, when it's Bob and Mary who are in Georgia doing the work, this is what customers are wanting to hear. Someone just like them and their personal experience. So when it comes down to building your brand, there's no better spokesman for you than the actual person in the field. Social media is the way to get that voice heard by tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people for specific brands. Don't underestimate the power of it. Don't make it a side project. It's worth investing either in an individual person to do this, or at least have a dedicated program to be on social media. The rewards that you will get from social media will take your brand to new heights. When people are on social media talking about your product, it gets into the groups for the OEMs. People are talking about it there, and it actually forces the hand of the dealer and the OEM. When social media is talking about a product, the dealer picks up on it. The dealer then asks the OEM about it. The OEM is then forced to go back to the supplier and say, I'm hearing a lot about this product. We always love when there's pull through for our products, when our brand is pulled through. And we remember back in the day, there was a certain roof vent that there was only one name for it, couldn't live without it. When you said the name, everybody had to own that roof vent, okay? And now there's plenty of others on the marketplace, but why? That was brand identity. Before social media, it was brand identity, word of mouth, FMCA. There were people in person. There was customer service happening. It's no different. Those are the basics of building a brand and building a company. This is just a new way of doing it. This is still features of the product, supporting your customer, talking about the benefits, getting the word out, and then having personal experience with the product that promotes your brand. It's all the business philosophy that's been out there forever, but this is the way to do it. Additionally, in RVWA, there are personalities. There are people that I've worked with for years, some new people that I'm meeting now. There's a lot of personalities, and personalities do make a difference. And when people are engaging, when you talk to someone and you trust them, when you talk to someone and you really know that they are knowledgeable, that they have an interest in you succeeding, you're drawn to that person. Social media is not only a way to promote your company, but promote yourself or promote your spokesperson within this forum. On RVillage and on other social media platforms, there are get-togethers. One of the things that I think is the most underused part is get-togethers. Right now, most of them are virtual. But Grand Design, I'll use again as an example. Grand Design partnered up with Lippert Components. And Grand Design did a virtual get-together where they invited up to 50 people who are on the platform to attend a walk around of a coach, where the Grand Design person talked about their new product, and then the Lippert person spoke about the leveling system, spoke about the stairs, spoke about the awning, and spoke about the slide system. It was attended by 50 people. It filled up almost instantly. They watched that product presentation. That video was then shared. That video is posted on YouTube. That video has received tens of thousands of views, and that video is now on both of their websites. Sure, it was informative, but really, it was a way to build the brand for both those companies. Alliance RV has done 4 get-togethers in the past 2 months. All 4 of them hit capacity. And then the 2 most recent have been posted, and those hits are skyrocketing. So they're not only getting to promote their product and show it to an audience that otherwise they may not have been able to, but they're also receiving feedback and questions and able to judge, is this question coming in and it's something we need to listen to? Is this question coming in and it's just information we need to provide, or do we need to change our product? How else are you going to get that type of feedback before you ever ship a product that sits on a lot and has lot rot? How else are you going to get that product before it goes there and then develops a warranty problem? Or even worse, develops a recall? These are pieces of information and feedback that companies and brands are hungry for. So if you look in the get-together section, let's look at upcoming get-togethers. And again, I'm showing you RVillage, but whether it's on Facebook and you do a Facebook Live event, whether it's the RVillage get-togethers, whether it's a rally of some sort, these on here there's book book clubs, there's wine clubs and all that, but there's an RV driving school sponsored by FMCA. There's an Alliance RV empowerment session. That's one of the exact things I'm talking about. They bring together people that are interested in Alliance RVs, owners or not. What are your suggestions? What's your input? They've found this to be one of the most valuable tools. Again, FMCA is on here. And we also provide people, it's Chris and Gina Fox, who are part of the Riveted Fox, and they're social media influencers, and they will host and mediate any get-together for you free of charge. So if any of the companies that your membership is with would like to do a get-together, would like to be involved some way in social media, they are available to not only invite people to that, but to host it. You can see right here the event host, the Riveted Fox, Chris and Gina Fox. They're professionals at doing it, and they do it regularly. All right. The last thing I will mention about RVillage versus a Facebook or one of the other platforms is when you create a group here on Facebook, and again, we can go look at the different groups. We can browse the groups. Several manufacturers are on here. Most of the Thor companies are on here. Grand Design is on here. There's 30 different Forest River brands on here. When you see one of those groups, these 3,192 members may not seem like a lot. Those are 3,192 members that truly care about Grand Design. When they're on their home feed, again, versus a Facebook, everything on this home feed is RV related. It's not political. It's not your high school crush. It's not your friend showing you how great their life is versus yours. Okay, it's not all those other things, which are fantastic, and they're on Facebook, and they're what you want to see. If you start to join too many groups on Facebook, I'm into classic cars, I'm into RVs, I like to travel, I have several groups that I'm a member of. My feed becomes so clogged that I either start to hide the groups that I've joined because I stop seeing these other things that I want to see, and I stop getting notified, or I start removing myself from these different groups. That's not the case here on RVillage. So every time in one of these other groups there's a post, it ends up on the home feed. People are here expecting and wanting to see RV content, RV related stories. That's why it is so important to be the person that is posting regularly, to be on the feed, not at 2 a.m. when most people aren't up looking at it, not at 3 a.m. on an automated system, but engaging on a regular basis. So when you have 3,192 people in your group, not only are all of them seeing you and following you on the home feed, but they also are providing feedback to you because every single one of those posts is being, is being engaged. And if you look up here at this bell, I only have 45 notifications, but we have an 85% engagement rate on these notifications, 85%. Facebook has a 13% engagement rate on their notification bells. And these notification bells are anything from so-and-so posted, so-and-so commented, so-and-so said this, so-and-so posted this. All of those are engagement. When you post, that's an engagement. When you comment, that's an engagement. When you view, that's an engagement. And the real way to build a brand is to create engagement. We can talk here about other things. Excuse me. If we look into the search area, let's say you have a brand that is, let's use Lippert as an example, okay? So if I go to search, I can search the site and I can search for my company. Let's say, we all know Lippert is a big company. I'm sure there's conversations going on involving Lippert. You can see all of these conversations here involve Lippert. This one doesn't look like a great one. Avoid any and all Lippert. If I was a Lippert employee, I would love to be in there. Okay. Others are suggesting contact Lippert. Okay. These are conversations that are happening. Again, being part of social media is almost a requirement now to continue to build your brand. If I go over to Facebook, let me pull up Facebook here. See if I can move my screen down a little bit. I'll just go from here. If I go over to Facebook, the other social media platform, and I type in Lippert, I want to search Facebook for Lippert. So you can see Lippert is active on Facebook. Lippert has a group on Facebook. They're posting things. They have the new Lippert Scouts. They're doing a great job over here. However, their group, I'm sure, has tens of thousands of people. These, even though I'm a member, even though I follow Lippert, I'm not seeing these in my home feed. Unfortunately, it's just one of the downfalls of being a big company with lots of different companies and lots of different people. So although you may have a strong presence, I'm not seeing it regularly. I need to hunt out this information. I need to seek out this information and find it. Does anybody have any questions? I have a few more things I want to go over. Does anybody have any questions at this point about?
Dawn has a question, and her question is, how many subscribers do you have on RVillage?
Great question. So on RVillage, I joined RVillage about 9 months ago, and we had about 140,000 people on RVillage. Right now, and I'll show you on the homepage, this is a live number that updates regularly. We have 369,719 RVillagers.
Okay. I also have a question for you. So, we're talking about some of these big companies out there that have the ability to have their own social media group doing this. How about, what advice would you give to the smaller companies that out there that don't have the resources to have a dedicated social media person where it goes out and talks about this kind of thing and researches it and is able to communicate with all their consumers?
That's one of the things I think is great question. That's one of the things that I love about social media. I think it's the great equalizer. Okay. Because on social media, whether you are Coca-Cola or whether you're, Dad's root beer, you are really at the same level. The access to what you have is the same. Both of those companies can create a page. Both of those companies can create a group. Both of those companies can create a discussion. Both of those companies can reach out to the other people. Now, it's a perfect example also where Coca-Cola is on the platform, and yes, maybe it's drank by millions of people on, that are on Facebook. And maybe the other cola company does not have that big a following. But if the discussion is happening, if people are talking about it, if there's a reason to want to engage, you are going to start to bring people, not only that are Coca-Cola fans, but you're going to start to bring people in general that like to drink soda or that like to be involved with that. It's the same in the RV industry. So if you're a smaller supplier, a smaller OEM, or a smaller dealership, and you're saying, I don't know that I can compete with these other companies. It's not about money spent, and it's not about, how big your product is or how many dealers you have. It really is about creating engaging content. And it doesn't always have to be an advertisement. So if you look at the company Red Bull, okay, Red Bull energy drink, the reason Red Bull became popular was because of the crazy athletes that they sponsored, because of the story behind their brand. It was because of the events that they sponsored. It wasn't necessarily because Red Bull tastes great. It wasn't because it was the most available product out there, or certainly wasn't the cheapest. They created an identity and a brand because of the events, the soapbox derbies, the Flugtag or whatever it is, where you go off the ramp into the water, all the sports, the action sports athletes with Red Bull on their helmet. They created a brand identity that went on to social media and took off. And it was not the most expensive campaign that anyone's ever done in the history. So to a smaller scale, that's what can happen within the industry. The other thing about social media is the majority of it is free. Okay, so I know people have asked about, what does it cost? What does it cost to do this? So on Facebook, we all know it's free to join Facebook and be on Facebook. It's free to join RVillage and to be on RVillage. So if you want to do advertisements on Facebook, sure, you can do a pay-per-click, you can do some running advertisements, you can do those sorts of things. And there's a cost associated, but if you're smart about when you're running your ads, who you're targeting as an audience, and what types of things you're doing to make sure that you get the best clicks and the best people involved, the price is small. On RVillage, to become a business member, it's like $2,000 a year. And not only, you can come on for free, create your business page, do a get together, do those types of things for free. But if you want to step up that experience, it's a couple $1,000s a year. And you have links to your other social platforms. You have Christina, who works with me. Christina is probably one of the most talented and hardworking people I know. I invited her to the call today. She was busy because she would fit right in with the women we have on the call. But she'll help you develop the artwork, set up your group, help talk to you about what kinds of posts, when to post, how to react. So price shouldn't be prohibitive for almost any company to be involved in social media. And Facebook is the biggest. That's why we talk about them. LinkedIn is another place to build your brand, but you're really pitching business to business for the most part on LinkedIn. You're not really pitching to the consumer or to the dealer. You're really pitching business to business. A great place to get advice and input on the strategies you're doing. But as far as results oriented, I find that, Facebook, RVillage, and even some of the others, whether it's an Outdoorsy or a Campendium or some of the other RV specific sites, they're great places to advertise your brand.
Awesome. I think this is going to be a good place to stop and talk about our sponsor once again. And I'm going to turn this over to Monica.
Yeah, again, we are just so happy to have Levanter Products as our sponsor this month. You can see this great picture of their team. So a nice sized team there. And you see Lisa right there in the middle with the dog on her lap. So, and then on the next slide, we have all of their contact information. It is. So here's their website. Everyone got that in their email to log in today. So please visit their website and learn a little bit more about them. We love to see our members support our sponsors who make the membership and events for the RV Women's Alliance, free for all of us. So thank you again, Living Insure Products. And we'll kick it back over to Mark. And if anyone has any questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask them, or go ahead and put them in the chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, if anybody wants to reach out to me, my direct email is mark, M-A-R-K, at rvillage.com. And I promise you, it won't be a hard RVillage pitch. As I said at the beginning, my mindset's in that groove because I do work for RVillage. But just in terms of discussing social media or discussing strategies or discussing how the market's changing out there or things that you're doing, I'd be more than happy just to have that discussion with you guys, and any way that we can help.
I have a question again, and this may be totally awkward, but so you were recently purchased by Thor.
That's awkward. No.
Okay. So based on that, so do you think that takes any of your individualism away of being able to be, because you are owned by a different company?
Yeah. No, I know where you're going. So
space, yeah. So I would love to give you the opportunity to talk about how that relationship goes, and so everybody, I know a lot of people have talked about it.
Yeah, and we were very worried. So I joined RVillage before the acquisition happened, and I joined back in March. And the plan really wasn't to be acquired. The plan was to grow this. And about 8 or 9 years ago, I had the exact same idea with a company called CampSmart. And I started that company. We had 40, 50,000 people on the site. And it was, I'll use the same terms that I used then now. We wanted to be a facilitator. We didn't want to compete with anybody. We just wanted to facilitate the industry as a whole. And we wanted that to be how we were part of the industry. So whether you were big, whether you were small, whether you're an OEM or a dealer or whatever, we wanted to facilitate, help everybody along, and in the process, we would succeed. So when the acquisition talk started, one of the first conversations we had was, this absolutely cannot be, specific to one manufacturer. This cannot be specific to one dealer group, one supplier, one anything. It stops working. If it's not the entire conversation, good and bad, if it's not every brand, every dealer, it really loses its luster. The neat part about Togo Group is, yes, Thor has a large interest in it, but Thor has a huge interest in postal aluminum. And I know that Forest River buys a ton of aluminum from from Postal. So, they really, in this case, are hands off. They told us during the acquisition, which was a pleasure to hear, they really felt this was important enough. This was where the industry was headed. They needed to protect this from, going to a different investor that maybe would want to make it specific to a brand or specific to, something else. So there are a couple Thor people on our board, but our board is not specifically Thor. We report to a separate Togo board. We answer to separate people. And I will tell you that the Thor companies have not got as good a deal as some of the early adopters of our platform. So the people that are paying to be on there that are not Thor are actually getting a little bit better deal than the Thor. Hopefully there's nobody on here that I've charged more to, but they don't get as good a deal. And we do that intentionally. We are making sure that we are staying true to what RVillage and Togo is, and that's trying to facilitate the industry as a whole. But I do appreciate the question.
Yeah, I think it was on a lot of people's minds. And please, anybody who has a question, please put it in there. But I'm just going to keep on peppering you with them until then. So suppose you have a budget, let's say $1,500, which is like next to nothing.
Yeah.
But I mean, industries have changed. The way people think, the millennials and the different age group going out camping now is a different experience. They don't get their information, let's say, on a magazine or, the different ways. I mean, there's two ways to get it, right? So we have the older generation that's still like that. So I had $1,500. Is it best spent into the social media rather than some of the older ways? I mean, what do you think is the best return on investment right now when it comes to?
Well, look, I think to the earlier point about cost, a lot of social media is free. a lot of what you can do on social media doesn't really have a cost at this point. So with that $1,500, I would say, number one, establish a free presence on the different sites. Make sure that if somebody is a millennial and they've rented a camper or bought a new one, they're going to go to their phone and they're going to start looking up, the camper brand or the supplier brand or the campground or the dealership or whatever. They're going to start to look it up on their phone. Make sure that your presence promotes who you want to be. And that oftentimes doesn't require a lot of money. It just requires some time and some creativity. Once that's established, I think the second thing I would do is I would say, make sure that you're hitting the email side of things. If you have emails, if there's emails available, if there's cost-effective ways to reach out to these people, do that. I mean, we use a program called Unbounce, which I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with that, but with an Unbounce page, if you're doing a piece of marketing material and someone clicks on that, it tracks who they are, where they're, even if they don't complete the landing page, you still know who visited your site. You're able to capture that information. So we use Unbounce pages in a way that manufacturers and suppliers will say, hey, I have 40,000 people on my email list. I really don't have anything to say to them. And we don't do a regular newsletter to these people. So Family RV Group, who I think was just purchased, there were 13 dealerships in the center of the country. They had a really large email list. So we set up an Unbounce page. They sent out a newsletter to their people. In that, it described what RVillage is, that they had established a presence on RVillage, and you could click this link. So people click the link, they go to our landing page, they sign up for RVillage, and it automatically joins them to the Family RV Group within RVillage. So these people that are clicking the link and going there and trying to find RVillage and Family RV Group, it just happens automatically. They're now all of a sudden a member of this group. They're seeing the posts from the group. They're able to post in the group. And more importantly, Family RV is able to contact them through the Family RV Group. So I would use a lot of those ways instead. I would be creative about it. I don't know that you have to dump all 1,500 into advertising, but there may be key areas that you want to hit. I have a question here about dealer groups. So we have Giant RV World down in Florida is on our site. Family RV is on the site. There's a lot of smaller 2 and 3 store dealer chains and a lot of single location dealerships on the site. What they want to do is be able to not only keep in touch with customers who have just bought from them, but be able to reach new customers in the area that may want to buy a product. So they're creating groups so that people will start to interact with them through there. They're not specifically saying, come to our group because we're going to post what units for sale this weekend, but they're going to post information. Where are you going this weekend? How's the weather? What did what's the first upgrade you made to your rig? Those types of questions just to start conversation. Occasionally in those groups, we're going to see somebody comes in and says, man, I bought from this dealer and they're the worst in the world and I would never go back there and service is bad and they yanked me around on price and boom, boom, boom. That's going to happen on social media. And I hate to say it, it does happen. However, here's a couple of mechanisms that we have in place. If anything has vulgar language in it, there's a list of however many words that vulgar language, it's not going to be seen. It's not going to allow it to be posted, number one. Number two, if they get around that and they still post something that isn't very complimentary, we have human beings monitoring our site. Like we have 3 people 24 hours a day monitoring every post that's made. So if that happens, if we think that it's completely out of bounds and not based on merit, we just hide the post. So it's not going to sit out there for days and weeks and months. If we say, you know what, this person has legitimate, although it may not be a nice thing to say, we feel there's legitimacy, we copy that post and we immediately send it out to the person that's in charge of that company. So, let's say, Susan, you're in charge of, the page for whatever company and someone puts a bad thing. We copy it, boom, it goes directly to the email that you have signed up. If that email hasn't been acted on within 8 hours, we send you another reminder as to what's going on. So then at that point, we feel it's kind of on your shoulders. The best thing you can do on social media is go in there. We're sorry to hear that you had this experience. We'd love to be able to, to remedy it. Please contact us offline. Let's not hash it out in front of everybody. Can you please contact us offline, get it resolved? And then you ask the person to go back in and repost that, they were contacted and it's all worked out and whatever. And when that happens, that really is powerful for the peer-to-peer thing.
Absolutely. I think Don has a question about how are you getting millennial RV owners to subscribe to your social platform?
Well, that's, if you look at the RV industry, millennials had not been a huge part. So our site is not, our new site's better. Our current site's a little clunky, I would say, for millennials, and we know that. And that's why we have the brand new site that's being launched, where it's in a different language. It's written in React. So it's faster loading times. The user interface is a little bit smoother and sleeker to use. A lot more interaction with emojis and reaction type tabs and those types of things, which is much more in line with that. So even as a social media company, we're struggling right now with, we'd love to have the new site out there, but we know with millennials, you probably have one chance. So when a millennial comes to your site and it's clunky, or there's broken links, or there's things that aren't working, they're gone. And we understand that. So what we're doing is, number one, we're redesigning our site completely, and that's done. And I'd be more than happy to show any of you the beta site if you want, knowing that there are some issues. But within the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, that'll be launched and fully capable. They like that. The other thing that we're doing is, because of the Togo Group acquisition, we have more developers, more designers, and more product people on board than we ever had before. So we're adding more and more features. A couple of things that we're going to be adding is, if you enter the VIN number of your coach, you're going to be able to be notified of recalls. We're going to be able to suggest parts that will probably fit your RV. We're going to be able to direct you to a service center, or put you in touch with the supplier or the manufacturer of the coach if you have specific questions. So with the millennials, and I hate to generalize, but they want, instant access, instant answers, and they want it at their fingertips 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whether they buy a $18,000 car brand new, or an RV brand new, or they buy a $200,000 one, they expect that level of service to be the same. So we're keeping that in mind, and we think the new site's going to hit it. But the best way to attract millennials is go where they are. They're on social media, whatever the platform, they're on it.
Interesting. I'm not a big social media guru. I'm probably in that other age group, but
most RVers are. I would tell you that, if you look at the demographics, until recently, until the past year or two, the demographics have usually been, late 30s, 40s and up have been the majority. Now it's trending down, and we know that.
Yeah, and that's something that we have to keep ahead of. Is there ways that your site links with other social media platforms? I've seen the little icons on there, for Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. So
if you're one of the paid members, if you're one of the paid business members, you absolutely can list all of your other social handles on there, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Google Plus, whichever platforms you're on can be listed on there. You can also link to videos, whether they're on YouTube or hosted elsewhere. You can do that. Videos can appear in the home feed. Videos can appear in ads. So absolutely, you can link to all those. We don't have any problem at all, even promoting a page that's on a different platform. It's still interaction. And then one of the last things that I didn't mention earlier is, once, if someone does become a paid business member, there are opportunities not only for ads, but to do surveys, not just product testing surveys, but true surveys. And we contact on a regular basis about 280,000 people weekly with newsletters and different correspondence, and we can put surveys in there, and we usually get a pretty good response if you really want to know about specific items. And that's something that hasn't really been available in this industry before.
Yeah, kind of like the roundtable discussions.
Absolutely.
Which is invaluable, and we used to do in-person roundtable discussions, and that was our early times of social media.
Yeah, and don't forget that, RVing is a lonely sport. I mean, when you think about it, you get in your RV, even if you have your family with you, and you go to whatever campground, you're not at home. You show up, everybody's doing their own thing, and you're kind of sitting there like, okay, I've got this big rig I just bought, and I maybe have a campfire here, but what do I do now? And naturally, people are going to go to their phone to try to find out what's going on. And I really think that with social media, you can find anything. I mean, there's groups on RVillage, if you really look through, anything from a 420 club to a nudist club to an ATVers club to, anything you can imagine, there's a group for it on our platform already. And because there's over 4,000 groups, and they're all user created. I mean, very few are created by us. So when you get there, it's lonely. So now you're going to start to connect with people that you have something in common with. You can see who's actually in the campground. you can see people that own a similar rig that are in your campground that have similar age kids. I mean, you can really drill down within the site. And I don't want to make this too much about RVillage, but when you start to connect people at that level, you know, you've never met somebody, but you have the same age kids, you're, you know, using the same rig RV, and you're from the same area. Okay, you're bound to have something else in common. It doesn't have to be lonely, and that's the person you end up trusting. Hey, I'm new. What do I use for sanitation in my tank? Well, we use this. That's what you're going to use. You know, how'd you clean your roof? I used product X. That's what you're going to use. You know, that's the power of social media, is out of nowhere, you meet this person that almost becomes instantly your friend, and you instantly create history. And that's what we're trying to build for brands, where people become the trusted source.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And once you're in it, you just, it just starts to really evolve in your mind. Like, I thought I knew about it 8-10 years ago. I think I know about it now. I'm so far from fully really understanding the reach and the power, but you have to start somewhere. And that's the pitch today, is just get in the game, you know?
Yeah. Social media is the first place to start.
It is. And done the right way, it's not too costly, and it's really effective.
Awesome. Did anybody else have any other questions? We're coming up upon our 1 o'clock hour. Oh, nope, just a couple. Maddie said she just signed up, and we've got a people on here saying, hey, thanks, Mark. They really appreciate the talk and enjoyed the information. A lot of thank yous. So I would like to also thank you, Mark Lucas, for coming on and talking to us today, and our sponsor, Levanture Products, and Lisa over there. Monica, anything else?
I just invite everyone to join us next week. We will have John Tingatella and Nicole Martin coming back for part 3 of Negotiating for Women, and they will cover the all important ask part. So invite you guys all to join us back here, same time, same place. If you haven't registered, do so you'll get the link. And again, thank you so much, Mark, for being here with us today.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Have a great weekend.
You too.